Domestic work is an important source of employment, representing 2.3% of total employment worldwide. Value for their work remains low as many face exploitation, abuse, and remain underpaid.
Kuna challenge mingi uanga unapita, kama wanaweza kuambia hakuna chakula, wanaweza enda wakutupanishange hivyo ulale hivi hivi.
We see labor trafficking and even extreme instances of child labor.
They are adults and you're a kid, you have to wash, you have to do everything. It's a lot for a kid. Remember, a kid is someone who needs that love, that family love, that warmth. If you don't do anything right, they will insult you, they will abuse you, they will beat you, you won't eat.
This work comes with beating, physical violence, sexual exploitation.
A labor force that needs to not only be trained, but educated about their rights as well.
When we started, I remember people used to pay domestic workers 2,500, very little money, and there was less respect. I know some of these things are very hard to measure.
I didn't even know I had a right. Actually, I didn't know nikienda police station nitasaidika in one way or the other. I didn't know to go na office ya children offices. I didn't know. But I have the information.
Edith Murogo, the founder and executive director at the Center for Domestic Training and Development, decided to change the narrative.
So some would come and would really want to work, like they would be so desperate, really wanting the money, having a lot of challenges at home and really looking for that opportunity. But again, I realized they were not skilled. And so sometimes it would put me into conflict with them, whereby you're having to sit somebody down and ask them, a few questions here and there, or sometimes maybe their approach to work would be wrong, or sometimes they would really mess things up in the house. Yeah, so I had those interactions, and I'm not the only one who was having these interactions. Even my own friends had the same interactions. Sometimes we'd go into women chamas and you find that the domestic workers issues take half of the time. Yeah, you met there to talk about money and to do your table banking and your contributions, but it ends up being like a domestic workers, workshop.
Edith decided to focus on training domestic workers to empower them, and she reflects on those early days. It was not so straightforward.
I thought of doing a little survey to actually establish the status of domestic workers training in Kenya. So that put me directly in touch with the bureaus, and we visited about more than 100 bureaus actually in Nairobi and its vicinity. And I realized one thing. There was one thing in common with all these bureaus. The owners of these bureaus actually did not have the idea of training. Nobody talked about training and nobody even had that idea. And so I knew clearly I was walking into an opportunity of training domestic workers. I was not really interested in the placement. My idea actually was transformation from the word go. I thought that if I got domestic workers, trained them using my skills as a teacher, that I would be able actually to skill them so that they would have something tangible, to sell to the market. It is from there that I decided to mount a small or a training program in my house. At the time I had a servant's quarter. So, and a servant's quarter is normally a very little space. But I decided, since I also had a backyard, I thought that was enough ground already. And my house already, which had like 3 bedrooms and a kitchen and a living room and a small compound again at the front. So I thought that I had actually enough space to pilot my idea.
For the pilot program to take shape, she decided to engage a few friends to help mobilize the first set of girls that would go through the training.
Where I was living at the time, it was near Strathmore University, and we had a lot of traffic actually coming from Kibera and going into industrial area. And there were a lot of women, young women and even older women, and of course the men who are just passing through there going to look for opportunities, especially looking for opportunities in Nairobi West, South C, South B, you know, that whole area there. So there was a lot of traffic passing there. So we were able actually to identify 5 young women, and I interested them in the idea of training. And yeah, they gladly agreed and they came on board. And so they would report to my house every morning. So they would probably like come in at about 8, and then we would start our training from 8 up until about 4. Yeah. So of course we'd punctuate that with lunch and practical skills, moving from like one room to another. Like for example, if we were doing like housekeeping, then we'd use my living room, and then of course the bedrooms. So at in the bedrooms we would make the beds. In the living room, of course, we would hoof the carpet, do the arrangements, just the whole housekeeping activities. Yeah, and I was training them for about 1 month. So it was very comprehensive, very intense, but mostly very, very practical, about 95% practical.
As is with most training programs, once it was done, focus now shifted on how the trained domestic workers could access jobs.
I did a small advertisement. I took it to Sarit Center. I paid for it at the notice board. And then I advertised there that, are you looking for trained domestic workers? Yeah, I have been training domestic workers and they're available for employment. Yeah, and surprisingly, yeah, people started calling me and asking me whether they could hire. And one thing led to another. So I would lead them to my house, to my private house, and they would come there actually. And they would interview, and everyone was very impressed with the services that I was offering. So yeah, they all got jobs. And that really motivated me and served to confirm to me that, yeah, you're on the right track and you're doing the right thing, because you have identified a gap, a problem in the society. You have filled that gap by giving them skills. And then thirdly, your graduates are in high demand.
With demand growing, it was now evident to Edith that she needed to scale the project and find a way to get more people to enroll on the program.
I would actually go to the bureaus and ask the owners of the bureaus to allow me to interview the girls who are there waiting for jobs. And yeah, there were many girls who wanted to come with me, but my problem was the money. So sometimes I would afford to pay, because I would go to the bureaus and the owners of the bureaus would say, for us it's business. So these girls are here so that we can place them, and we place them at a fee. So of course my focus first was to talk to the domestic workers, sell to them my idea of training, and show them how they stand to benefit by getting employers who would pay them even better salary. So of course the ones who agreed were not so many at first, yeah. But honestly speaking, there are those girls who agreed to come with me, and I would pay the owners of the bureaus, and they would allow me. So within a very short time, I was able to have at least a class of 30 students. Yeah, and you know, as a teacher, I was so excited that now I have a full class. Yeah, so we were able now to train them. I picked one of the girls that I had, who I realized that she had natural skills, you know, like in an eye for detail, cleanliness, you know, well organized. So for that one, I did the skills transfer. You know, I did the skills transfer. I brought her to a good level of a trainer. I did a kind of a training of trainers for her. And so now she was helping me with the skilling. So I was the master trainer, and then of course she was my assistant.
Through her efforts and in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Education, now KICD, there is a home care management curriculum that is used to train domestic workers in Kenya.
That same curriculum is the one that was used to model the current curriculum for training in home care management, and which is also now being used to train migrant workers going to the Gulf and different parts of the world. Initially when we started, our model did not include payment. But remember, it was a pilot and we were just trying to see what would happen. So we did not have any training fee, and for the longest actually we were not charging. But from about 2004, we started charging 1,000 shillings. So we would ask our trainees to come in with 1,000, and that 1,000 would allow them to actually get accommodation, complete with 3 meals, and then training, and that also included the job placement and the monitoring when they were like working. At the moment, we are charging 10,200. So this is a non-profit making model. Yeah, what we are trying to do is to ensure that we create access, we increase access, and to even help further, we even have a payback system. Like you can come in, get trained, and then after the training, you pay back. You can come in with as little as like half the amount of money, like 5,000, and then after the training, you start working because we get you a job, we connect you with employers. After the training, and you are working, then you can now repay the 5,000.
To get the gist of what to expect in the training, Edith took us to the childcare department.
So what we have done is that, of course, you can see we've made it very beautiful and appealing. We have tried to get child-friendly colors so that we can be able to teach our students even what a room for children should look like. So we have all the equipments that are required in our homes or even in institutions where like the caregivers are employed. You can see like now here we have the chest of drawers, and it is even marked to help our students to now be able to even be organized as they are managing their work. So we have, this is where we birth the baby. Here, these are some of the equipments that are used, and they're all important because we have to teach them how to clean them, how to maintain them, and because many of these workers are coming from the rural areas, they also need to see modern equipment. This is the cot for the baby. So again, you can see how it is. So we have to accustom them. We have to show them how to manage it, how to even make the bed, how to organize it, and also how to maintain it. So all these are equipments. This is a chair where they can even rest. We have tried to really just make sure that all the equipments and the play items, all the play items that they require so that they can understand play. That play is a part of a child's growth and activities that you can use to stimulate children.
We had a chat with 2 girls currently going through the training in a bid to know their perspective of the program.
My name is Fatima Sambu. I'm 19 years old. I come from Kakamega County. So I did my KCSE last year. Then I was interested to come to this school, at least to be trained. In this school, the training entails laundry, housekeeping, catering, childcare, and home nursing. As in laundry, we wash clothes using machine. We learn how to iron clothes, to polish, and how to clean the floor using moppers. The teachers, they are very friendly, they are good trainees. Yes, it is better to be trained because you can go there, you don't know how to use machine, but if you are trained, you can do. I can get a job and at least be paid well because of being trained and having a certificate at the end.
Before joining the program, Josephine had already worked as a domestic worker, and with the challenges she faced, she decided to pursue training to be well equipped and empowered.
Nilikuanga naona ikiwa na ugumu mahali kama kupanguza nyumba, kama kazi ya caregiving, child care. Sasa vile ilifika hapa nikaona wacha nikuja hapa East Africa Institute nikatrain. Kuna challenge mingi uanga unapita, kama wanaweza kuambia hakuna chakula, wanaweza wakutupanishange hivyo ulale hivi hivi, lakini huku umetoka hapa kuna kuanga na sheria mingi sana. Hata mkikosana hawezi kukutupa huko na kurudisha mpaka hapa. Mshahara ni mzuri na kazi umetrainiwa iko sawa sawa. Mashini sikuwa najua kutumia, hata washing machine, dishwasher, ovens nimekuja kuzijulia hapa. Za kulea mama mzee na baba mzee ama mtu wako mgonjwa nyumbani. Hiyo yote nimepata kabisa yenye nilikuwa nataka. Na sana certificate. Kwa ningepanda kutafuta kazi kama huku juju ama kazi kubwa hata kwa ofisi. Sasa ukienda huwezi kupewa bila certificate. Na hapa unaisoma na unaipata.
As she reflects on those humble beginnings, Edith acknowledges that the program has grown and, most importantly, impacted so many people seeking to be trained as domestic workers.
Over the years, we have trained over 30,000 domestic workers. We are at that point where we are also now scaling in terms of reaching the women even where they are, the domestic workers. In Nairobi alone, we have 10 hubs, 10 community hubs, where we are targeting especially the mama fua, the ones who do temporary laundry services and housekeeping services. So we are also reaching out to those, and so we are rolling out a very ambitious program whereby we have hubs in Mathare, Mukuru, Kibera, Kawangware. We normally send trainers to these hubs, these community training hubs. We identify a hall, we send the women come, we send trainers, we train the trainers, we conduct the training for the women in all the areas, housekeeping, childcare and everything. And for the practical experience, they normally now have to come here to Githurai at our school, because that is where now again we have the home care hub. This is where now like we have all the training equipment that they may see. So whatever we cannot take to the community hubs, they normally have to come here at Githurai, and they are able to interact with the equipment, learn and understand how to even use the equipment.
Today, the Center for Domestic Training and Development works towards better human rights and employment outcomes for domestic workers.
We have revolutionized the way people see domestic workers. When we started, I remember people used to pay domestic workers 2,500, very little money, and there was less respect. I know some of these things are very hard to measure or difficult to measure, but at the moment I have seen people pay domestic workers very well. I know domestic workers who are earning 50,000, 40,000, 30,000. 15 is now the minimum, and even the ones who are going to the bureaus, they're asking a lot of money for themselves. And I have seen employers also transform in the way that they look at domestic workers. We're in a market where a lot of households are looking for very well-trained domestic workers, domestic workers who are operating at the level of, like managers, someone who can take control, someone who can manage your households in so many respects, someone who can do professional housekeeping, professional laundry, people who can take care of children professionally, people who can receive guests, professionally, So many of our homes are demanding that level of skill, and that is what we have provided.
Human trafficking for labor is a big problem that stems from taking advantage of the urban poor and people living in the rural areas seeking a better life.
There are some employers who choose to go to the rural areas and lure unemployed young girls and women, and sometimes even men and boys, and they give them fake promises, like, let's go to Nairobi or another urban center, I will employ you, or someone else will employ you, you will earn good money, or you will go to school, or you will be able to send money back to the folks in the rural areas. And it's a nice job, you will be well taken care of. There's a lot of that. This work comes with beating, physical violence, sexual exploitation. You're denied food and basic rights. And these are all components that feed into, the threshold of trafficking. So it's not just a job, it's not the ordinary job. It's something that is much more. So because of our association with domestic work, we found ourselves just walking right into the middle of now working with the victims of human trafficking and being so confronted to the extent that we felt called into action.
At the age of 13 years, Aileen became victim to child labor. After losing her entire family while living in the rural areas, she was lured to Nairobi with the guise of a job offer.
Child labor, it's a lot. You remember you are a kid, you haven't experienced, and then you are taking care of big people, even their kids are. They are adults, and you're a kid, you have to wash, you have to do everything. It's a lot for a kid. Remember, a kid is someone who needs that love, that family love, that warmth. But being exposed, you have to abuse through abuses, because they will insult you. If you don't do anything right, they will insult you. They will abuse you. They will beat you. You won't eat because sometimes unapika, right? And maybe mwingine aseme mimi sitaki food. Hiyo food ikikaa hapo, wanasema unaharibu food. So you won't eat because wanasema hiyo food iliharibu, hiyo ndio ilikuwa yako.
While moving from home to home looking for better working conditions, Aileen would go through a devastating experience that changed the trajectory of her life.
I was taken to this house. The woman and the man was a police officer. That's where I was sexually abused by the man and 3 others. So yeah, after that I got pregnant. That's where my miserable life started. Yeah, so I went through a lot. I'm pregnant. I don't have anyone to turn to. I don't know anyone in Nairobi. And then if you are pregnant, no one will take you in. Like they won't believe that you can work while you are pregnant and still you are a kid. Most of them will be like, oh, maybe when uliendea huyo mwanaume, you see the community and the judgment and everything. Nobody wants to understand you to that level. So yeah, unfortunately or fortunately, nikapata nyumba ingine while I was pregnant. So nilimwambia, me, I'm pregnant. Though sikumwambia the whole story and what happened. She took me in, nikafanya kazi na ball mpaka time ya kuzaa. So I had to move out and move in with a friend. So huyo friend kumbe alinitake in because she knew I have saved some money.
Aileen stayed with a friend until her savings ran out, and eventually she was kicked out. Out in the cold with her 2-week-old baby, she found a good Samaritan who directed her to a children's orphanage.
Mommy did. Yeah, the owner of the shelter now, where I am now, akakam kuvisit. Kukuja kuvisit nile mna interact, ndio nikamwambia story, mimi nataka kwenda college. Akaniambia, yeah, there is no problem, I will take you in. That's how I ended up here. So when I came, I was really broken. going through labor, even as a grown-up, that thing really destroys someone's soul and body and everything. So I was really broken, I was really depressed. Nilikuwa really depressed. So when I came here, nika go through counseling, hosi, nika kukua stable enough, ndio nikasema nataka kufanya cosmetology. So nikafanya cosmetology. While at it, I was still under counseling. And my baby was being taken care of, but tulikuwa huko na yeye. So yeah, tulikuwa wamenisaidia sana. Hii shelter wamenitake in, and I felt the warmth of the family and the love and everything.
As Edith reflects on the path to recovery for Aileen, she acknowledges that there is still more that needs to be done.
She is very determined. She's a very determined young woman. And we are happy to have supported her to take a course in cosmetology, which is hairdressing and beauty. And we have reintegrated her, and now she's in the community working as a hairdresser. She has a young child, a young son. She's taking care of the child. We are supporting where we can, but we are also appealing to members of the public that whenever we come across these survivors out there in the community, please let us support them. They have a lot of needs. As I have just explained, their healing does not come easily. It is long term. So there is no single person who can be able to meet all the needs of a survivor. It will take a whole village to help just one survivor, a whole village. It will take a whole village, and that village is me and you. We can be able to make a difference in the lives of these survivors so that they do not get re-trafficked. There's always the risk. There's always a very big risk.
So I'm working, but pesa na earn ni kidogo sana. Juu sahi uchumi ni mbaya. Pesa kidogo, I have to pay my rent, I have to pay my baby's school fees, food, hospital bills, so I'm not stable enough. Where I am not where I want to be, you know. Bado stress ziko, life bado ina happen, even after everything. You know, being a mother is another challenge. And then being a kid mother is another challenge. And then being new in the world alone, it's another challenge. So I have so many challenges. So sometimes I break down, but na call to mother, niko hivi na hivi, ananipe advice, nakati. Any help is welcomed. No help is too little.
Beyond what she has gone through, Aileen is a survivor advocate speaking passionately against child labor and heavily involved in matters awareness and advocacy.
I want to be the voice of those kids out there. When you're always jongelelea, I'm privileged enough I can stand niambie mtu, this is what I do, and this is the law, and this is what the law says, and you shouldn't do that. When I was back then, when I was going through labor, child labor, I didn't know the rights. I didn't even know I had a right. Actually, I didn't know nikienda police station nitasaidika in one way or the other. I didn't know to go na office ya children offices. I didn't know. But I have the information. I'm trying as much as I can to pass the information to anybody out there. You know, some parents doesn't really know the law. They don't even know what they are putting their kids through is child labor. So if you educate them, so I'm trying so hard to educate parents. Ukiona mtoto ameandikwa place, we ni jirani, it's fine, si mtoto wako, and that ujui anything about the kid, but you know that kid is suffering na endi shule, and mwenye ako na yeye atake your responsibility. You can take a step, imagine, and you can save that kid's life.
The center runs a shelter that is able to provide solace for victims and aid them in their path to recovery.
Our organization has continued to be in the forefront of fighting human trafficking in this country, and particularly providing direct assistance to victims of trafficking. And direct assistance means providing shelter, providing all the basic necessities that they may need, also including counseling in the services that we provide, including family tracing, skilling, job placements, social integration, yeah, all those services. Personally, I have been awarded in 2010 during the International Women's Day. I was recognized by the American Embassy in Nairobi as an unsung heroine for the work that I've done with girls and women. We were also recognized by the Thomson Reuters Foundation because of our work working with victims of trafficking, forced labor, child labor, and I think that was very humbling. It was a very humbling experience that you see you're working locally, but you're also being recognized globally.
Edith's journey has not been easy, and one thing she takes from it all, the Lord has truly been faithful, and that can be seen in the impact her organization continues to have.
It has been a very interesting journey with its own ups, lows, darkness, brightness, light at the end of the tunnel, instances of, me having to question myself, am I on the right track? Am I doing the right thing? Why am I not getting the right support? As a Christian, sometimes even having those conversations with God, having to ask him questions, like, why have you sent me on this mission and you are not supporting enough, like you feel abandoned, Yeah, all these moments have been there, but I have never given up. I have never given up because at the end of the day, I want to say that when I look at the impact, when I look at the many lives that we have impacted, when I see the many domestic workers who have been impacted by our work, seeing the many girls who have come out of abuse and exploitation, and how now they are rebuilding their lives, when I see the many people who have been we have been able to suck into our cosmos, into our ecosystem, to the extent that now we see ourselves as a movement, a movement of change, where we are transforming society, in so many ways. That feeds into my inspiration.